can we get into Cody Ko?
Mhm.
Have you been following this at all?
I In dribs and drabs, like, I've seen clips from Tana's podcast where she's talked about Cody Ko, so I knew it was a thing, but I haven't seen, like, the nuclear fallout, for want of a better word.
Yeah, so this has been a thing. Cody Ko's a commentary YouTuber for anyone who's listening to this who has a fucking life. You like he's known as a funny guy. He has a podcast that he does with one of his friends. That's a big podcast. And now apparently he's also DJing. He has a residency at Encore in the in the Win, and he's done very well for himself. He's also invested in a bunch of companies, including Liquid Death,
Mm.
which so he's doing very well for himself. He's made some good early investments in various products. So he when he was 25 and Tana was 17 years old, they were at something called Playlist Live Orlando, which is essentially like VidCon, except probably run by less annoying people.
No, that's fair.
And it's for usually like smaller creators will go, earlier creators will go, like people in their Cody came from Vine and Tana was sort of widely, she spent most of her career on YouTube being widely shunned. She's very controversial to a lot of people. I personally enjoy Tana
Mhm.
because I appreciate that she was essentially a feral child who raised herself and really came from a major disadvantage in that way. And she just seems like someone who has really made her dreams come true. And I root for that. Sorry, I can't help it. She's made huge mistakes in the past. She's said things that are terrible. She's done, she's made a lot of what I would consider true blue youthful mistakes. But I also understand why there's people who are never going to forgive her and don't want to forgive her.
Mhm.
Specifically, I believe when she was 14, she said the N word,
Mhm.
and that video always makes the rounds. Who else said the N word? Cody Ko. So when
Mhm.
Cody Ko was 15, Tana Mongeau was 17. They were at Playlist Live in Orlando and they slept together. And coincidentally, Miss Gabby Hanna, who, YMCA employee, he was a huge YouTuber, had a really public incident of psychosis that was on TikTok that was heavily documented for days. It was one of those things where it's like, even if you don't care for her, like you got to have some compassion for what this woman's going through right now. She's in crisis. And apparently, Gabby Hanna years ago had told this story on her podcast about like, oh, I was at Playlist once and I saw this guy who was making out with this girl who was only 17, and I pulled him aside and I said, like, I know she might look a little bit older, but she is a minor. And the guy was like, "Oh, thanks, like, good, thank you for letting me know." And then they did it anyway that night. And so Tana's like sort of over many, many years sort of leaked this story on her own or hinted at it. She said things where she was like, I was 17 or maybe 18. I don't know. Like she sort of said it in a soft way. Tana has a history of also downplaying some like really horrific shit she's been through.
Mhm.
And this was recently at a live show for her podcast that she did. Someone in the audience filmed a portion of the show where they were doing a Q&A and someone asked her what the smallest penis she's ever slept with was. And she said, I feel like I can say this. It was Cody Ko. And then she's like, I can say that though. I was 17. So that's like
Mhm.
explicit, right?
Mhm.
Then this guy, D'Angelo Wallace, who's a commentary YouTuber who's always made really like, I mean, this is a kid with his head on, like a good head on his shoulders, right?
Mhm.
He makes a video called An Uncomfortable Conversation about Cody Ko. And he basically says, like, this is really bad. And no one talks about it because you're sort of like a god in this industry and like very beloved. That's the thing with Cody. He's a very beloved content creator. And Tana is someone who's really easy to throw under the bus because she has a history of lying and all this other stuff. I don't like, there's no way she would lie about this. Additionally, she did explain on her podcast that when she first sort of mentioned it years ago on the first iteration of her podcast, Cody Ko sent her a text being like, "Yo, are we cool? Like, I just got engaged. I'm about to announce my engagement. Like, are we cool?" And so there's this acknowledgement from him that
Uh-huh.
this happened, right? So finally, people start picking up the story, and like that guy, Penguins, aka Moist Critical, he has a huge audience, and he talked about it. I think he has 15 million subscribers. Philly D hopped in on the conversation, and, like, that's another reason why I think Philly D is always a fucking coward because he clearly doesn't like maligned, misunderstood blonde women. Like, very he's always slow to report the news when it comes to, like, a Trisha or a Tana. Like,
Right.
he just really discredits women like that and, like, will not talk about it unless he's pressed to do so. And that's just my scoop on Philly D. But it becomes a big deal. Like, this is now something that his fans can't ignore or dismiss because Tana didn't use sort of minimizing language. You know, D'Angelo points out that it's very rare to have a third party in a situation like this and would otherwise would be a he said, she said.
Mhm.
Tell this story independently on their own. Keemstar, Gabby told him this years ago, and he didn't say anything, but he did say he's like, "I don't Gabby's not gonna make any more statements on this, but I do have permission to retell that this happened."
Mhm.
So, everyone's up in arms because, you know, because he's so beloved, this is another classic story of a YouTuber that everyone loves turning out to be sexually a weirdo. I mean, this is statutory rape. Now, the statute of limitations is up in Florida. I believe when Tana turned 25 or 26 recently, 25 is the cutoff age in Florida to press any sort of charges.
Mhm.
So, the statute of limitations is up, but people are begging for Cody Ko to finally say something about this. My personal opinion, he ain't gonna say shit.
Mm-mm.
And it's because he like, why would he come online? And I feel bad laughing about this, but like, why would he come online to his own audience, a lot of whom probably don't know about this, and say, "Hey, just so you know, like the rumors are true. I did have sex with a minor when I was 25. That's bad news bears," right? So, um he also, I guess his citizenship is in the balance. He is Canadian
Okay.
and he is married to an American, but he's still like waiting on getting citizenship. And so admitting to a crime, this could hurt his chances of citizenship, even if he's not able to be prosecuted for this crime. Third of all, like, imperfect analogy, but it's a little bit of the Ned of it all from Try Guys, where the companies he's invested in and involved in would probably if he said this, they would probably have to make statements, and that would make it and about how he has to, how he stepped down or whatever. And that would make it even more national news. Time magazine, I guess, wrote a digital story about this. So it is getting coverage in the mainstream press now as well. But yeah, it's interesting. He had a DJ set on Friday at Encore. He has like a residency there for right now, and that's a contractually binding thing. So that's probably one of the many reasons why he went and did this. But like all these people were in, like, the hot sun, like, chanting Cody Ko and stuff like that, and to that I say, you have to remember a lot of people don't know these things are going on. They simply don't log on.
Mhm.
They're not following some guy they know from Vine and YouTube who makes funny videos, and, like, they're probably just, like, all rolling and drunk and, like, have no idea what's going on. So, it's interesting to see what's gonna happen next. Do you have any like, what are your thoughts on this?
I think the stuff around Tana being, easy to dismiss and discredit is actually really sad and really heartbreaking.
Super sad.
It's like it's the most overwhelming feeling I get about this, especially as she was like in the instances where she had said that this had happened, you know, it wasn't a sit down video where she was like, my experience of Cody Co brackets, statutory rape, comma, sad, close brackets. You know, it wasn't like that. She was saying like, you know, it was often in kind of an offhand way.
Yeah.
And which means that, like, I think she is obviously kind of normalized this, internalized and normalized it as an experience, which is kind of sad. Um, and I'm kind of on the same page as you when it comes to her. Like, her and Trish are just so similar to me for a number of reasons. Like, they have a they have a checkered past and they have some real problematic behavior. But I do have a soft spot for maligned blondes and for young women who offer themselves almost as sacrifices to the internet as a figure of fun. I think there's been a lot of growth and maturity in Tana. Um, and I don't know, I think it sucks. Like, she's like an imperfect victim in this. I also think Cody Ko sucks, honestly. Like, I think he
He
fucking
does
sucks.
suck. He does suck. Like, okay, well, one thing about the Tana thing is that I didn't really see people discrediting Tana until it became to a point where people could no longer deny that this happened. It wasn't sort of things that she'd maybe like blurred out, but never even really expressed deep upset in. And so I think people were able to ignore it then, and also they might not be in the same spaces. But now that they're left with nothing but the reality of he's done this like he did this, and also he's done this before when he was 24 living in LA. He was dating a 17-year-old girl for a while. And they were like, it was kind of known that they were a couple. And that's just weird. It's also weird because he was more famous, I guess, than even Tana at the time. So he was like, sort of like, he got by a little bit on these like cutie pie looks a little when he was younger. And that really was responsible for building his fan base. And so, I mean, if I had to take a wild guess, this 17-year-old was probably infatuated with his fame, the one that he dated. So
Oh, well,
I,
of course they were.
yeah,
He was a known person on the
yeah.
internet, and she was 17. Of course she was. There's a power imbalance.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
but I've felt for a long time that Cody Ko is one, not actually that funny, and that two, Noel, his partner, is like actually the funny one. Like he's the one that actually is like quick and can get write a quick joke in his head and get it out there. Like when he and Cody are doing, their banter, you can see that Cody's mind is working slower. Do you know what
Mhm.
I mean? You know when you're seeing someone who's trying to keep up with a bit and they're just thinking too hard. Like it and then he'll say that, he'll say something and it's like the most obvious joke that is a step down from what Noel said. So it's like, no, you're supposed to heighten the bit.
Yeah.
You're actually supposed to comedically heighten things. But yeah, why do you think he sucks?
I just I didn't know that a few years ago Jake Paul had confronted him in a barbershop or a barbershop channel, I should say. It's a bit different to
Yeah,
a
Jeff's
barbershop.
the guy that David Dobrik whacked his eye out.
Ugh.
Jeff.
Oh, that
It
was
was
Jeff?
yeah. And, like, so Jeff does, like, haircut like, barbershop videos because he used to cut hair, but then, like, the gag with the show was that there'd be, like, surprises and, like, people coming in and doing bits the whole time,
Oh, that's why
and
Jason Nash was there.
That's why Jason Nash was there, but that's also, like, why Jeff thought it would be funny, and Jeff wound up apologizing for kind of surprising Cody with Jake,
Yeah.
but it was definitely one of those things where it's like, "Oh, you're a bully online," and then when you're confronted with the person, you can't you have no spine.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I hadn't seen that before. There's a TikTok you've linked to where she talks about that and his particular brand of content and comedy. Um, and I watched it. I watched Jake's video, and it's him from 5 years ago, and he looks so young. He looks so young. Um, and it's interesting. He'd obviously done a fight, maybe even 2, but maybe not 2, but he definitely done a fight by then. So when he comes in, Cody Ko goes up to, like, dap him up, and Jake doesn't respond, so he kind of is left hanging, puts his hand down, and then his first thing is like, "Oh, are you gonna fight me?" Cody Ko's like, "Oh, you gonna fight me?" But, like, not as like a, "Oh, you gonna fight me?" It more of like, he looks like a fucking pussy, honestly. You know,
He's
pe
terrified. Jeff
people
literally
is
released
terrified.
Jake Paul from a closet.
Yeah.
Like, there was a random closet that Jake Paul was sitting in for, like, the first probably hour of them filming, and the idea of Jake Paul emerging from a closet that he's been hiding in is crazy.
To go and fuck up Cody Ko. I mean, people in glass houses, obviously, but, like, I find the commentary genre of it all quite challenging, especially on YouTube. I find it's often just very mean-spirited and doesn't add anything of note, and I don't think he's funny or charismatic. I think he might be a bit of an opportunist. There are some things I can look at and say, uh, "I see the appeal, it doesn't appeal to me." But with this,
Yeah.
I don't really see the appeal. I think if I was a 13-year-old boy who thinks that being a little bit mean is, like, fun and okay, it would probably be my favorite channel. But I am not a 13-year-old boy, despite evidence to the contrary.
Well, I think his audience skews very female because, like, again,
Stop.
like, when he was really blowing up post Vine, like, he was sort of like a little boy bandy. Like, he just
Ew.
had this sort of, like, cute, youthful thing to him, even though he was considered old for YouTube. He just has that thing where it's like, "Oh, if you're funny and kind of good looking, like, that's gonna get who does that draw in?" I mean, he's no Matt Rife, but he, like, definitely but here's the thing, so what he really blew up for, and this is a video that I saw by Coco Moco on, TikTok, and I thought this was very interesting because you might not really think of things this way. I know that it didn't occur to me, but then all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, that makes total sense." Which is that he blew up for doing these videos called That's Cringe, and
Yeah.
that's the genesis of, um, the Jake and Cody beef as well, because he had a video about that teacher diss track that Jake did, and usually, though, the subjects of that cringe were sort of just people who were doing things in their own lane and, like, not really bothering anyone, and while they were, like, making content that obviously, like, you kinda have to be a special type of person to enjoy it. And it's a little like, maybe not understanding the essence of why things go viral sorta thing, trying a little bit too hard. They're just people, and they were
Mhm.
always smaller people, and, sure, there was some people that got roasted, like the girl-defined girls because, like, they're peddling this really sort of harmful and lame Christian propaganda, but Coco says that she used to think, you know, Cody Ko was funny and sort of, if he was there, she would laugh sort of thing. If the video was there, she'd laugh. But she wound up meeting one of the subjects of his That Cringe video. I don't wanna say which one it is, but I think I know which one it is. And the toll that this video took on this woman was something that you could tell was in the back of her mind at all times, sorta
Oh,
thing.
I
I
can
think that's
totally
what she
imagine that. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
of course, of course. I think about like one of my favorite things that I encounter on the internet, and it happens less and less, is earnestness. I think like I really respond to a level of vulnerability and earnestness, especially when something might not be, I mean, being a little bit harsh, might not be great. But I really admire trying. Like, I think trying is so good. It's like my favorite thing, where something isn't sort of like ironically cool or whatever, but where someone is just like doing whatever it is that they're doing. And I can't imagine sitting on a high tower with a big platform and like being roasted to high heaven for just like, you know, doing something silly on the internet or something that's entertaining that you don't think anyone's really going to see. It's like nightmare territory for me. I like that a level of scrutiny. It's just, oh, it gives me chills. And I just think it's kind of mean spirited. And I think the more people become the most protected and guarded versions of themselves, the less fun and interesting that the internet is, honestly.
It's I I agree with you on that. I feel the same way. I think there's something very sweet about watching people trying to improve themselves or their life or just do their own thing. I think that's one of the things that people really love about TikTok is that it's usually just people trying their best and like the more influencer you get, like of course you're going to be stripped down of that, but I think that's one of the reasons why my FYP doesn't really show me people intentionally being sort of rehearsed and funny. And
Hmm.
it also doesn't really show me a lot of like the lifestyle influencers.
Yeah, I'm getting like, if I'm getting interesting skincare content or whatever, it's well shot or it's well lit at least, like usually kind of pretty naturally, but it isn't somebody sitting down at a sort of predetermined time in front of a preordained like backdrop and like giving me a really like polished and rehearsed version of events. Like it tends to be so much more authentic and real. And like, not everybody wants to sit around with their fucking LED light strips from Amazon in the background and a blue Yeti microphone, like spouting off about other people. Like I think that's actually kind of fucking lame, to be honest.
It
Um,
is lame, it's low effort, and a lot of the jokes don't hold up, and it makes me shudder to think about someone walking around feeling terribly about themselves, losing their self-esteem,
mhm,
feeling afraid to like try again because everywhere they go, people are recognizing them from this embarrassing thing and
mhm,
like repeating his jokes back to them. It starts to feel like this is the going to be the label on my life. And like that's what I thought Coco made such a good point about was like, yeah, it's that's like that's brutal and like there's no way that that wouldn't affect someone for the rest of their life. And the way that he does it so casually is so mean.
mhm. It's bullying. I mean, Jake was right when he was like, "Why do you bully people?" And it
And
like,
it's interesting because Jake dated Tana as well, so
mhm,
he probably knows about that too and chose not to say it, but
mhm,
it's interesting, he was standing up for someone who I think was made fun of in one of Cody's videos and saying, like, "You hurt kids, like, you hurt young girls, like, that's fucking weird."
mhm,
And, you know, it's always interesting when someone like Jake or Logan has the moral high ground, but it's true. It's just true, and at the time, it read like Jake was just being a fucking weirdo, and I wasn't really seeing anyone have I wasn't seeing anyone, like, not on Cody's side, but I think even Jake pointed out the way he, like, just cowers is so unattractive and telling.
but that's a bully. I mean, like, Jake was a bully in school, and he was also bullied, and he's copped to both of those things, and I think now I think he has a nonprofit, which is Boxing Bullies, which is about getting young kids into boxing gyms and teaching them kind of, like, discipline and life skill and kind of being able to channel aggression and stuff. And it's been
He's
going for
grown.
years. What?
He's grown.
He's grown. He's totally grown. And I think like it I don't know. I will always have a soft spot in my heart for Jake Paul, but I think if you were a bullied kid and somebody's made 6 to 8 videos where they just talk about how fucking lame your shit is, it like has to get under your skin. Like especially when this person has an enormous platform. And
Yeah, even Jake, like, who was chronically dunked on, especially during that time. Like, I never saw him go for Ethan Klein like that. If anything, like, Jake went on Ethan's pod and was like, they sort of broed out for a minute. You know what I mean? Like,
mhm,
that's like, yeah, there's something so disingenuous about the way Cody makes fun of people, and he goes a little too far. And all of these clips have come out now where he is so you know how YouTube scandals go, right? Where one really, 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 really bad thing happens, and then people start coming out of the woodwork with like just kind of stupid things that are
yeah,
beside the point. And it's
yeah,
like you like so like what happens with so for example in this, Kelsey, his wife, Emma Chamberlain was a huge fan of them when she was just starting out YouTube, and she was 16. I believe her father was there, so that's another reason why it's like I'm not gonna give this too much air, but, like, I guess they'd let Emma hit a jewel,
okay.
and they filmed it, and, like, in my personal opinion, the mistake was posting it. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal that, like, someone in their 20s let a 16-year-old hit a jewel, but also, like, that's blaming stuff on his wife, and that's also whole like, and it's that doesn't belong in a conversation about statutory rape. It just doesn't. And, like, it's not like Emma Chamberlain has turned out to be some flop loser whose life was taken down by this single vape hit. Like, she's more successful, arguably, than almost any other YouTuber in history, right? So in the mainstream sense, right? So I have, I take issue with that just because I think that's, like, not part of it, but then that this is how things get watered down, and it affects the way that these stories are told, and it affects, like so if you're telling a story about someone and you say, "Wow, like, this guy's a really bad guy. Like, he had sex with a 17-year-old when he was 25, and also, like, his wife let Emma Chamberlain hit a vape," and then so, like, someone and I see this a lot this mistake a lot with YouTubers who cover these sort of stories and these sort of sagas, the thing that they give it too much air in the piece, which makes people sort of start to be like, well, some of this isn't that bad.
Mhm,
And so they forget that the thing that we're talking about is the main thing.
mhm.
But all of these clips have been popping up of Cody where Noelle, his friend, is talking about like R. Kelly and like how fucked up he is or whatever. And Cody's just sitting there like uncomfortably laughing, knowing that in one clip in particular, it was about R. Kelly having sex with a 17-year-old. And Cody is like sitting there, yeah, like, oh yeah, that's crazy. Like, like knowing that he's done this himself. But I want to know what you think about sort of accountability for the people that are closest to him, because obviously if this thing happened when he was engaged, the first thing that he responded to Tana, his wife definitely knows about this.
Mhm.
Noelle, his partner, definitely knows about this. I'm not sure on the logistics of this. I need to look it up more, but apparently Cody wasn't invited to Noelle's wedding,
Oh, okay.
which is really like bizarro behavior. But then the other thing is that one of Cody's best friends is the founder of Cameo, and when he was at Duke, was, I believe, some like suspended or something. But his father is also the like one of the deans at Duke. But he filmed a person having sex with this girl, and the girl also claimed that she was drugged before this act happened. She thinks this guy did, is it Cody or Colby? Colby. And she thinks that he drugged her. And then additionally, and I want to be careful talking about this because like apparently his father is very litigious on top of everything else. But this guy was Cody's best man in his wedding. And so, like, there's a lot of rape culture surrounding
Mhm.
him and his main people. And I wonder what you think about like accountability or like what's expected of someone like Noel or his wife who just had they have like basically an infant. What you think of this?
I don't know if his wife has anything to answer for.
But she knows. She knew for years that he dated a teenager and had sex with a 17-year-old at
Well,
25 years old.
that's kind of her terrible decision making.
Yeah.
I'm I mean,
I don't know, I'd have a
surely the
really hard
punishment is being married to Cody Ko.
Yeah,
She's living her punishment. If she knew, then it's not shocking news to her, and she went in eyes wide open. Then, I mean, she's kind of made her own bed. She's with someone that is not a very good person.
and what do you think about Noelle? Because I personally feel like Noelle probably did not know about this when they started working together and started rising to fame, like, this was probably something that was the biggest surprise to him, and it sounds like he's been I was just reading in different comments and stuff like that, that Noelle seemed disenchanted by Cody for a while.
Right. I mean, we don't know what we don't know. When it comes to accountability, like, what do you mean? Like, should Noelle be cancelled? Should she like
Well,
what?
should they make a statement? Like, should Noelle make a statement about like the Try Guys thing, right? Like Ned had an extramarital affair with an employee, and the Try Guys had a State of the Union address type video that they made. Which a lot of people think was like one of the most responsible handlings of anything in like the history of YouTube. Of
Mhm.
course, I'm a terrible person, so I thought it was very funny. But
I mean, it was, but they did start a company together that they were all sort of equal shareholders in, and a quarter of that shareholding, a quarter of that business came under the head of somebody who was having inappropriate relationships with one of their employees. So that's like a business statement, for want of a better word. What's the
and I
kind of
think that that would have to be the same thing with their network because they have a podcast network, Tiny Meat Gang, that has some pretty like young, has some young, like sort of new creators that are really people really enjoy them. And I know one of them, Drew and Enya, they're a team that do a podcast called Emergency Intercom, and they have been blowing up and doing really great. And they moved away from Tiny Meeking like right away. But
Mhm.
it's interesting, and they so that means they were let out of a contract, which
Mhm.
is also very telling too. That like you know, I mean, this was profitable for Tiny Meat Gang, and now and they just like cut someone loose because like there was no denying it. End of the day, they could have said, you know, we're not going to do this anymore, and they were not going to hold on to it. They knew that like they knew that they had no high ground or defense here.
Mhm.
And I think that's super interesting. But Noel's a co-owner in that, and
Right.
Noel, I don't know why I keep calling him Noel, but he's a co-owner in that. And so I wonder, you know, is he I think he should say something.
Yeah, I mean, probably the most important thing is that Cody Ko is held accountable, like actually, and that the people around him aren't the only ones who catch the stray bullets and lose out financially, because I think it must be a pretty shit position to be in the orbit of someone who is holding the the power and the gateway to your like financial success, and for them to be doing really rotten stuff and know that, I don't know, that the people around it might end up catching more of the fallout than the actual person at the center of it all. They're
I
in a
don't
more
think they're gonna catch more fallout. I just think that you do need to say something if I mean, this is just what I've known for a long time is like one of the guys that I knew out here in LA for quite some time, he was accused by a variety of women of rape and physical abuse. And pretty much everyone I knew made some sort of statement condemning him. So I think that it's not uncommon to be like, we don't stand for that in our community or whatever. I think Cody's gonna soft retire. I don't think he's gonna say anything. He has way too much on the line to address anything.
Mhm. I think I disprove those. I disprove, not disprove, but I think I distrust a lot of those kinds of statements, especially when there's a large controversy like this from the surrounding people, because it feels like, I mean, immediately, obviously, people are trying to protect their own image and reputation, but I don't know how much like actual accountability is in that versus like just trying to create distance between you and the terrible thing. So, I mean, maybe they could say something, but like I don't know how much stock I would put in it, or if it would just feel like they were abandoning ship and saving their own skin.
Yeah.
Because, like, what could you say? You could say, like, I knew and I didn't say anything because I was like, my financial like future was tied up in this. And he was my friend, and it was Tana, and she was a precarious little shit. So I didn't really trust her. And so I just kind
Well, I think it would be more like
No, but that's what I'm saying. In order for it to be truly, legitimate, like in order to tell the truth would not be like a vindication for these people. So you'd get some like soft half-ass statement about condemning the behavior, and then like, hopefully walking away with it not stuck to you because you're a bit Teflon because you've made a statement. Like, I don't know. I feel like I just distrust it. That's it.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think a version of it that I would accept, like, even though it's not my apology to accept or my statement to accept, I think I would be comfortable with a reality in which Noelle said, ever since I found out about this, my relationship with Cody has changed a lot. We're still coworkers. We started this business together. But privately, he's known for, like, quite some time that I don't approve anything he did in that respect, and that included, the way that showed up was me, like, not inviting him to my wedding, for example, but, like,
Mhm.
I've also worked very hard on building this business, and without him taking any culpability and responsibility for what he did, our relationship has changed a lot. Like something like that would be because then you understand a lot of people get stuck between a rock and a hard place in life,
Mhm.
with these
Mhm.
types of things. And you do, unfortunately, often in this world wind up working with people who have done bad things. And so, like, that concept shouldn't be totally foreign to people. I do think their audience is an age where they might not understand that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the amount of people who I see just say, like, "You should completely abandon your family that supports MAGA. Like, stop talking to your father, who is otherwise a very well-meaning person." Like, it's not possible to cut everyone out of your life who you have drastically different opinions on, and often or even moral differences that are pretty significant? So, I don't know, I think he's gonna disappear,
Might as well. I
but
would.
I think it's gonna hurt him a lot. I mean, like, he's into obviously, with all his businesses and stuff, he's financially set, but he definitely seems to be someone who likes being famous and likes
Mm.
recognition, and that is gonna feel like a huge punishment for him. Whereas, like, a lot of people who maybe were on the fence about this sort of thing but happen to have money would probably just go be with their family. probably just, like, go hang out with their family and,
Yeah.
like, not but, yeah, I think that is gonna hurt his ego a lot because I think there's a lot of ego involved with someone like him.
Mhm.
So,
It's not necessarily the money, it's maybe the, adoration and the lemmings that you get along with it.
yes. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, how nice
And
to have that echo chamber, like, in such a
yes,
big way. Every
and there
fucking
are
thing you
plenty of
say
people
comes back.
defending him. Like sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just saying, just the idea of, like, it feeding the ego. You're, like, speaking out into the world, and what's coming back at you is, like, it's just vindication, and that is fucking intoxicating, and I think it's probably, like it's way worse for YouTubers of that size than it is for the average celebrity because it's like you can literally scroll through the comments and be like and see like Yas King like such a fucking great take a time and time thousands of times over until you start to really truly believe it. And that like
Timestamp,
oof.
why does he look kinda hot here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that will be hard for him. Yeah, but it's one of those things where I want people to, like, be very comfortable with the idea that is always an option to not say anything, and sometimes it's smart to do because of, so it's just, like, not a public conversation to have, but in cases like this, especially going online and admitting to a crime,
Mm,
especially when it's beyond something that you even can be prosecuted for, but would change the way that everyone feels about you. And just remember, even with Colleen Ballinger, like she was selling out shows and doing shows well after that news had broken. But the reality is most people, if they watch someone on YouTube and they only watch their channel, like they might not know about this.
mhm,
All of a sudden it's like, why is this person who I watch like basically defending themselves against grooming allegations, and also there's nothing really he could say that would be positive or productive here. Like there's no way he can do the like it was a mistake or whatever else. Like he knew that she was underage and he did it anyway.
mhm.
Like rape is rape. Like that's one of the bigs, you know what I mean, of the things to be accused of. Like it's just very. Yeah. I mean, but these people also always come back, so we could just wait it out.
Yeah. I won't be watching.
I
No
won't be
surprise to
watching.
anyone.
No, I know. I'm a 40-year-old woman. I have no business, like, taking in Cody Ko's content, but
No, thank you.